Hey everyone, Internet Vicious Book Reader here. Today I want to talk about My Beautiful Sister by Khalida Popal. Afghanistan has been through a lot both because of outsiders and insiders that are funded by outsiders. From my discussion on The Night of Fire by Robert Fish, Afghanistan is one of the countries that is terrorized by American war on terror that was caused by them funding many projects to assault the Middle East like Israel and Egypt. At the end of that video, I mentioned David McBride, an Australian whistleblower that is currently in prison because he reported government war crime while they're in Afghan, while all the people who did the war crime is still free. There's only like one guy that got likely scolded for doing said crime. Australia didn't actually need to be in Afghan since it's more like America project to try to occupy the country with force, but a few Australians decided to be lapdogs for America and send their armies there to do America's war crime for them, so America doesn't have to get into trouble with the international law. They could just ask the Australians to do them since they're such a good little dogs. Then once everyone seems to realize that there's no benefit for occupying the country, everyone left leaving the Afghan people in the hand of the group that they funded. The author Khalida Popal, like Malala Yousafzai, has been kicked out of Afghan because of the crime of being a woman trying to play football professionally in Afghan. In a very bitter fate, she is currently in Australia in order to raise awareness of the help that people in Afghanistan needed. Because as if life in Afghan cannot be worse for the girl living there, in February 2020, United States under Trump signed a deal with the Taliban, not with the Afghan government that they implemented there, but directly with the Taliban that shoot girls like Malala in public transport in broad daylight. And with the help of America's right wing, who in America are promoting the idea that Muslims are anti-women rights, the Taliban gained control of the country. They quickly took Kabul city, and the first thing they did after they gained power was to take down women's right to educate themselves, destroy their music instruments, and take away their chance to play any sports, not just as a professional but even as a hobby. Harsh punishment like cutting their hands or even hanging can be done to those who fought against them. And because of the success of the women who played football there, they were directly aimed by the Taliban and they had to hide their football shirt or any picture that showed them playing football. The author felt responsibility for this because it is her that started the movement of women football in Afghanistan. It started in 1996 when she was still in Kabul. A few months ago, all the kids including the author and her brother was hiding in random basement in Kabul away from the constant battle for the city. But there was a moment of peace which now the author used to play football with the neighbor boys near her home. Her lifestyle is not exactly the norm in her area. Her mother had to marry young and her grandmother had to marry even younger, 16 and 13 respectively, because honor and saving face are still the most important for the people there. So they marry young to avoid honor killing, where if someone, a girl for example, married his boyfriend that the family didn't agree with, it is reason enough to punish her to death. One of the reasons why the author had a chance to learn and play football with other boys in such an environment was because his father and mother has learned much from the suffering that their grandmother and her mother had to deal with. And they teach her since she was a kid that her voice and opinion matter in the family's activity. That if she saw injustice and have it done to her, that she should fight against them. But it is still a rare thing back then in 1966, which can be seen a little from an elder woman who hand gestured to the author to wear her burqa when she saw the author not wearing hers because she took it down during football. But she's now home with her brother preparing for a family wedding with soft music playing and her mother driving kina to her hand when someone is banging loudly on their door. The Taliban is coming. The woman all went back home in fear, clutching bedsheet ridiculously to hide themselves. They arrived home after what felt like hours, and once they reunited with their family, they all huddled together around the radio. The Taliban has captured Muhammad Najibullah, the president of Afghanistan of that time. He is to be castrated, tortured to death, and hung outside the presidential palace. They quickly banned the girl from school and work, disempowering and dehumanizing them because they saw them as a threat to their power. The boys also didn't have it that much better. The school and what is to be taught in school is controlled by the Taliban, so it is normal for all kind of red pill and al-fasik male propaganda bullshit being taught in the school. Only went back to live in the basement away from everyone because a lot of people are being recruited by the Taliban, and it's only in the Taliban that they had the chance to be one of the ones with power in the city. So now no one can trust nobody out there in the street. To make matter worse for the author, her family, her father and grandfather all works for the government. Government are now gone, so their jobs are also gone. Violence escalated until someone assaulted the author's father on the street, and then their uncle, the one that has been helping them, ran away at night with the help of his colleagues because he cannot handle the city any longer. So the family decided to move from their house too, since it is safe now to consider their house in Kabul unsafe. They took everything they could that can fit into their long journey, which they lost most of them because of some smuggler decided to take advantage of them, so they had to pay them extra, at least enough for them to turn a blind eye just this once. But at least they are all away from Kabul now, near the city of Peshawar at Pakistan. There they bought one of the smaller mud houses near Peshawar while the kids and the mother stays, while Dad went to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees to find work, food, and a place where they can get water. He found work in construction where he spent most of his days, then at night he comes back home bruised and battered from the job. No one in the family was, since they lost most of their clothing from the journey, so everyone had to quickly get used to the smell. And while the adults are busy looking for jobs and often fail to find any, the kids, including the authors, started going to the school that was built by the UNHCR and UNICEF while they had a chance to educate themselves after so long. The area is still quite lawless, with the person who self-proclaimed being the leader of the area still a conservative Pashtun that has similar values to the Taliban. Women and girls still expected to cover their face and breathe their own breath despite the heat of the Middle East. The author was carrying heavy stack of books as a little girl, and she lowered her face cover a little bit for room to breathe when a rickshaw driver saw that and got so offended he slammed his rickshaw to the altar. This are refugees area after all. It's a place full of unhappy people that cope with their bitterness in a way that inflict their pain to other people. The kids need to learn to survive quickly and got used to every kind of scene of violence. Thankfully, at least that's not how the family of the author cope. With their friend, they found escape through doing sports, either cricket or football, running and forgetting about the life they have for a brief moment while they focus on their activities. Their life only got better once they moved out of the refugee camp into an apartment at Peshawar. People at Pakistan is not as conservative as the Taliban, and the author had a chance to play football along with everyone on the street there. But soon there was 9/11 that led to the Taliban being ousted from their seat of power. So despite the protest of the kids, the parents decided to go back to their home country, Kabul, Afghanistan, and it was bad in Afghanistan. While the Taliban is no longer in power, their teaching and red pill propaganda is still in power. So a woman like our author cannot dress like she wanted to or play any sports. The author also have grown old enough to have course that women are not allowed to show, so often she got beaten for being dishonorable by random people on the street while everyone just watched, making honor lose every sense of the word. But it is here that the author started finding friends to start finding football together. She met a friend named Samira that came from Iran, who have been playing football with her brother back at her country. And together they started playing, and more girls wanted to join in despite having to play the game while hiding. They need to maintain their score at school. They often played the game so early in the morning before class even started. They had to play them silently without making too much noises. But when you're playing sport, you can't help but make noises to communicate, and people got curious enough until a few men started jumping over the school wall to stuck their nose where it doesn't belong. They started making fun of the girls for playing men's game, then they gossiped about it outside the school about what they saw, so most girls stopped playing because they're afraid of what their family might do to them, which is why the author decided to start recruiting from other schools. She talked to Muhammad Anwar Jidalek, the president of National Olympic Committee of Afghanistan of that time, but instead of helping, he flirted with the underage author when she came to him for help to establish women's football, so she and her mother decided to do it independently. And they found people even when they have to reach others with their own 2 feet. Girls who want to play football too. And not just football, they also found girls who want to run, play basketball, or volley. Their group grew big enough to get the attention of the Football Federation and was even invited to Germany. But the more success they had, the more they were oppressed back in Afghanistan. When gossip and throwing insults can stop them, they started harassing them physically. But despite everything, the group refused to be stopped. They approached Karamuddin Karim, the new president of the Football Federation at that time, so they can compete on legitimate game that made money for the country. He won't help them, but he also won't stop them, which is good enough for the group. They've done everything themselves up to this point, so they'll just continue to do so. They managed to build a team with still the same struggle of losing players because their own family kept refusing to allow girls to play football, often caging and beating them until they cannot go anymore. But the team got an official game with Pakistan. They went without much hope because they are losing players all the time, and the coach is a creep who cannot play football and would rather ogle at the girl because Afghan punish the girls for being girls instead of this creep, so these creeps never learn their lesson. But the team win. They keep winning until they go to the semi-final. The game got big enough to be streamed in Afghanistan, where it got the attention of Hamid Karzai, the president of that time, who congratulated them on their game. Eventually, the referee from Pakistan had to interfere to stop them from winning the match. They lost the semi-final, but they still feel like they've won. But that happiness didn't last long. The game got streamed to public TV in Afghan, enough to get more than half of the girls on the team to be punished harshly enough for winning football until they can no longer play football. All the support that seemingly come from the government was just for media show without actual support of any kind. Even the football field that they gave for the team to practice is just a dirt field near the army camp where jets and copters stand to disrupt the game. So they're not of any help. Life goes on as more girls comes and goes from the team like an ebb and flow. The author managed to graduate from university even when one of the professional professors at the university threatened to fail her class because she's not Muslim enough for his taste. And she kept the football team going, even getting a job at Football Federation to take care of the team and give the players monthly income that are higher than what their combined family got from their work. In 2010, amidst the Taliban started becoming active again, the new president of the NOC, Zahir Akbar, a man in his mid-40s that are more than 2 decades older than the author, started to become obsessed with her. And he's the kind of man who are not used to being rejected. So even when the author kept refusing him, he kept escalating his obsession. And because he's a loser with a fragile ego, when he cannot get the author, he had to find ways to make sure that people know that it is the author's fault that he cannot get her, not his fault. He started a smear campaign on the author that goes very easily because Afghan is still under the red pill influence of the Taliban, telling people that the author used sex instead of hard work to get where she currently is. He escalated it so far until the people started looking for her to take her life, undermining all the progress that she has made by herself. She had to run from Afghan to save her life and to reduce the harassment to her own family. And just like that, everything that she has worked so far her entire life was swept so easily, and for a while the author was lost and truly alone since she's now in a stranger's place and a stranger's country without any family or friend. But if there's anything that she has learned from her life so far, is that she's a fighter, and she will keep fighting. If anything, being away from Afghan and football made her able to see more on how the culture in Afghan that endangered her life is bigger than just sports. A ban of women's sport is just one of the symptoms. Karim, the NOC president who used to help her, was even founded that he liked to assault and abuse the girls on the team. She worked hard to find chances while in Denmark to help these refugees, despite Denmark right wing at that time being very anti-immigrants. She even helped hundreds of football player team in Afghan to save their life when the Taliban got back to their seat of power in Afghan after Trump's deal. And now she is still working to help people, not just the one from Afghanistan, but people also from other places in Asia and Middle East, finding them shelter from injustice and help them find their own voice, showing the world how they matter so no one experiences the same experience that the author have. The book feels more like a personal journal more than it is a non-fiction, showing more than just the tough girl boss persona that she often had to adopt in public. It is not the most informative book on the topic because it is more of a memoir than it is a journalistic work, but it is still a story that I'm glad I had the chance to listen. I give this a 3.75. What do you think? Let me know if I missed anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. Let's support it. See ya.